over the rafters. So that also, remember, you don't want to see any etc. So let's talk about mechanicals. Mechanicals, as you may remember in my presentation, I was talking about, so there are different ways of doing heating system, cooling system, domestic hot water, etc. In the second email that Gabby will send you, it has many different links, examples of different new technologies that has come up. And one of them is called air-to-water heat pump. And the air-to-water heat pump, we like it because it has everything in it. You know, it has heating, cooling, domestic hot water, and if you want to do radiant floor heating is all combined. And it has a very good, you know, efficiency, 90% less emission, 80% less energy, 40% lower utility bill, etc. But so what it is basically one unit. You put just one unit outside of your home, and then it has both the evaporator and condenser in that one outdoor unit. And then, so all the refrigerant, everything is happening here. And then from here onward, there are insulated PEXI lines. So that is going to a heat pump station, which that usually goes in the basement, or for multifamilies can go inside the units, etc. But again, it's just a PEXI line going to the manifolds. If you want to have a hydro-air system with a forced hot air and forced cool air, you can have an air handler like this that comes with the system. It can have a mini splits like this, you know, connected to mini splits. But these are all water, and then or radiant floor heating, or if you want to have a pool or spa, and also it comes with a super insulated indirect tank that comes all with the unit. And so basically you have your unit, outdoor unit, evaporator, condenser, and the rest of it is really a plumbing and maybe electrician job and plumber job to just route these PEXI units to different spaces. So that's, I think, one of the good options. And I learned actually the price is very competitive. I mean, this is air-to-water heat pump under 10K solution, you know, Apollo. I mean, this is one brand, but under, you know, indirect tank, outdoor unit, heat pump station, 3 mini splits, Wi-Fi, thermostat, 3 of them, a manifold actuator, etc., less than 10K. And if this was if your project is it's a renovation project, you can get a flat rate 10K for converting your heating system to a heat pump system. For new construction, you don't get the heat pump equipment rebate. That goes to our energy model, and you get some incentives through that, through the RNC program, residential new construction program. But if it's a renovation project, you can essentially get your money back. But as I said, you have to then add additional heat pump. If you want to do a forced hot air or forced cool air hydro air system, you have to add this unit to it as well, the air handler unit as well. And the efficiency, usually air-to-water heat pump is better than, air source heat pump. But now you can do air source heat pump as well. So the only main difference is that the air source heat pump outdoor unit, you have refrigerant line coming into the home, and it goes to your air handler. And air source heat pump, usually they don't come with the indirect water heater tank. So it's that you need to buy a heat pump water heater separately. And make sure your plumber does not install a pure resistive electric water heater. Those are disaster. They damage your Hertz index by 9 to 14 points, and they damage your incentives. You almost get 0 incentives if you do that. So those are damaging. In fact, the 2 key factors that we have seen by experience that people fail and people fail their occupancy, etc., is one, this pure electric water heater, a resistive water heater, that is damaging both the score and incentives, and the other one is the final blow door testing. Both of these 2 factors, they have there are huge elements to damage your Hertz index in terms of code, and then the percentage saving and dollar amount in terms of the amount of incentives that we can get you. Alternatively, you can by the end of you can use for the non-specialized code town, you can still do fossil fuel on demand or as such, with the fossil fuel combi units, or a boiler or furnaces, etc. But start using electric solution, heat pump solution, because that is the future moving forward. In fact, the utility is not going to, by the end of this year, they're not going to give you any incentives if you're going to use fossil fuel for your mechanicals, etc. So and as you know, state and federal, everybody is pushing for going non-fossil fuel. All right, so that is for heating, cooling, and domestic hot water. Lighting should be 100% LEDs, of course. The thermostats should be Wi-Fi. of course, and then the ERV, as we showed you, the ERV is mandatory as of January 1st of 2023. So there are several different technologies of ERVs. Again, in that second email that Gabby will send you, it has different links for different examples of different type of ERV. Any of them is fine as long as it satisfies the CFM that has been mentioned in your preliminary certificate. That's a required CFM by ASHRAE 62.2. So as long as it can do that CFM, then you are fine. I would go at least maybe 30%, 50% more than what has stated. I mean, the maximum capacity of that ERV should be, more, because often we see when at the final we test the ventilation system, the ERV, we see for whatever reason, maybe the runs are long, or the dampers are not fully opening, or obstruction, or whatever reason, they don't perform as they have advertised. They don't do the maximum, so you don't want to come short. So I would somewhat get a larger unit to make sure that at the end of the day you don't come short with your CFM number. Now, another recommendation is that we strongly recommend not to connect your ERV to the central ductwork, and for a wide variety of a reason, and I don't want to get to that right now. If you have questions, you can send us an email. I'll give you the full answer. But make them a standalone, please. Let ERV do its own job, and let the air handler does its own job, etc. The problem is the conflict and the overruling one by the other, etc. And then also, frankly, if your HVAC sub decides to do that for whatever reason, they have to hire their own commissioning entity, and all we need a paperwork from credible commission entity source that they just sign off. They say how they have tested it and what is the test results. Because frankly, we cannot test the system because we don't know when the air handler is going to be running or when not, if we should measure it when the air handler is not running or when it's not running, and if the air handler has to be running all the time or it should be synchronized with the ERV. I mean, all those case scenarios we have discussed and talked about it. There is not really a best solution. And it makes it dependent to the occupant habits, that how often they turn on their air handler, etc. So it adds just complication, very many complication to the simple. But if you keep the ERV standalone and let it do its job, then everything is deterministic. Everything can be set and configured, and what you're going to get at the end of the day. So don't combine these two systems. With that, I think I have pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. Of course, for new, you have to check with your city and requirements. So as you know, the code is now that every house has to be EV ready and PV ready. And so EV ready, meaning, again, that means you need to have a 60, you need to have at least a conduit from the breaker to the future charging station with the 60 amp wires in it, or PV ready is same thing, conduit from the a good basically approved zones on your roof line where they are between 110 and 270 roofs. So in this case, we showed how where are the good area to install future solar. So those have to be reserved, and from the venting, etc. And also the conduit from these areas should go all the way to the breaker, and make sure your electrician puts that wire inside the conduit, because sometimes it's much harder to do it afterwards, and sometimes they prefer to do another conduit and wire. So make sure that wires with the high amp wires goes through them as well. And then the breaker also has to be reserved for the future solar breaker and the EV breaker. And the exterior lighting also has to have automatic controller, etc. So, and then the piping. These I've already mentioned in the presentation. I'm just emphasizing any hot or cold, pipeline, 105 degrees or 55 degrees. They need to have at least R3 insulation on those pipes. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay, so again, two important things at the midpoint inspection. When you're getting your rough inspection, make sure to call our office. And our project coordinator is going to schedule you and pencil you in for the midpoint inspection, which happens after your installation is done, before you sheetrock. Now, we because of the new code that forces us to or forces everyone to basically do a duct leakage testing. So prior to January 1st of 2023, if the air handlers and all ductworks were inside the envelope, we did not have to do duct leakage testing. But after January 1st of last year, we have to do that regardless. So that's why we recommend that we at least do one rough duct leakage testing on one of your system if you have multiple. So if the test results comes out good, then most likely your HVAC sub knows what he's doing and doing a good job. So, but if that one fails, that one at the rough fails, so he has the chance to fix his job, and so you don't have trouble after you close up the walls, and you don't have trouble at the final. So the final one is mandatory. We have to do every duct leakage testing on all units, but at the rough is optional. Okay, and now for the blower door testing, also we recommend to do a rough blower. We call RBDT. That's a rough blower door testing. We can do it at the time of midpoint inspection, but we also strongly recommend to do it after sheetrock and plaster before you start any finished work. And the reason for that is that number is going to be very close to your final numbers, and then if you're still coming short with your CFM number, then still you have the chance to use something like the ABS air barrier sealing, so you can bring your numbers down to where you want it to be. But when you start finished work, it would be very tough. So you may want to ask Gabby or someone when you call in to schedule you for the rough blower door testing as well. And plus the fact that if you do the ABS afterwards, then you stop these moisture movement, vapor movement to the wall assembly. And also it stops the sound transfer, because sound cannot move without air, and vapor cannot move without air. And also smell, movement and insects movement, etc. as well. Those are the benefits that ABS can bring about. So anyway, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say about this type of projects. Yep. So a question came up with the hydro air system. Again, hydro air system. This is an hydro air, or can be an hydro air system if you connect these hot and cold water basically to here with the hot coil and cold coil. And the only source of the heat and cooling would be different in this case. So I mean, yes, you have the option. Currently, you still have the option to have a boiler, and then the boiler brings the hot water to your air handler. And but in this case, it's a heat pump. But the advantage of the heat pump is also for the future occupants. If they want to add solar to their home, then essentially they're using the sun energy. Their sun is basically doing the heating and cooling and domestic hot water for their shower hot water. Everything comes from the sun. So basically their utility can go down to zero. And sometimes they can make more money because they're not using that much energy and selling it back to the grid. So yeah, that hydro air system would work very well. Okay, so a couple of other things is one that between now and your midpoint inspection, if you're getting any type of proposal from your installation company, HVAC company, if you get your windows schedule, etc., you're welcome to send them to info@A9Green. Don't send them to me, please. Send them to info, like information, at A9Green, and make sure, as usual, put the property address in the subject line, and specifically say in the email that you like to get feedback to make sure that the options or the choices that you're making is good enough. And somebody from our technical team is going to get back with you. By the way, so as I said, Gabby or someone is going to send you 4 emails after this. And the 4th email, if your project is an existing home, it has all the information about the heat pump, that 10K heat pump equipment rebate program that I mentioned. So in that, it's going to say that you need to buy the heat pump that you're buying has to be from the approved mass save list. You cannot just buy any cheap heat pump or etc. Your HVAC sub has to have an HPIN number, and also anywhere on the form that says project ID, you should just put R and A. So the renovation and addition program, so they know that you have gone through our program. So heat pump equipment rebate program is a totally different program. And there is an 800 number in that 4th email. So if you have any questions, please do not call us, because that's all the information we have about that program. You should call the 800 number, and they can answer any questions you have about